Mate, 26 years old, running your own distillery, you must be pinching yourself. How did Archie Rose get started?
It was a pretty long story, actually. I mean, I'd been keen to start a distillery since I was about 19. And from then, you know, it was this nagging idea that stuck around for a number of years. But it wasn't until I'd gone down the corporate path for a couple of years that I decided, you know, I've got to invest the time and sort of the research and figure out why no one had started a distillery in Sydney for so long. And
what's the biggest challenge been opening a venue in Sydney?
A lot of the regulations, I guess, are a bit different, particularly in distilling, where the industry, the modern industry is quite new and the legislation's quite old. There's a lot of things in an urban environment that just aren't mentioned in the legislation, and you've got to really talk through it and get quite personal with the different authorities to work through it. So it's been a challenge, but now that we're up and running and I guess people see what we're about, we've had a lot of support from the City of Sydney and various authorities.
It's been about a 3-year runway from the idea through to opening your doors. How did you sort of forecast capacity?
Particularly for whiskey, it's a challenge because obviously there's some significant setup costs in the equipment, and because of the 5 to 7 to 10 year delay on product actually coming to market, you've got to be producing now what you think you can sell in, you know, maybe a decade. And what you see with a lot of Australian distillers is they have no whiskey. So we've gone in a little larger. I guess in the scheme of things globally, we're still absolutely minuscule. But hopefully the challenges that poses for cash flow up front mean that when we do get to release the spirit, we can hopefully keep up with demand.
How did you manage cash flow in those early days?
You manage it as best you can, but it's more about planning. You sort of need to know that going into the whiskey industry and the spirits industry in general, it's going to be a challenge with cash flow because you're laying down these casks now that you'll see no return on for a number of years. In fact, some of the spirit evaporates. So you have to plan your working capital up front. You need to make sure that you've got enough coming in and then enough working capital in reserve to keep production going.
Was it a challenge retaining ownership through that pitching for capital?
Yeah, it was a challenge. It certainly drew out the process a bit, but for me, that was something that was important. I didn't want to give away equity for a number of reasons, predominantly just so we could retain creative control of what we wanted to do here. Because we do some things that financially are a bit of a stretch, but as far as innovation, you know, that's what we're all about.
And what process do you go through to identify the things that are worth pursuing?
It's really open. So everyone has ideas. We've got pages of ideas. And we will toss them around between the team, depending on who's got the expertise, but everyone gets involved in everything. And then depending on the most exciting ones, we'll then spend a bit more time researching. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to sort of sit down and do the dull feasibility stuff. But as far as coming up with new ideas and sort of keeping it innovative, it's just the whole team putting it together.
What's the best bit of business advice that you've been given along the journey?
Industry specific, it was make as much whiskey as you can. More generally, I'd say it's be really honest with yourself as to what your strengths and weaknesses are. Don't try and do things that you know aren't your strengths. Look for people to come in and help you with them. And doing things, I guess, that are hard. We've got an offering which should be out shortly, Tailored Spirits, where we're actually making custom spirits for customers on a single bottle scale. So you can design your own gin and vodka. We'll make it for you in the distillery, one bottle of one, and send it out. And that's something that logistically is really hard to manage, you know, when you're thinking about labour costs and how you can actually scale that. But it's those things that make you stand out a little bit and, you know, keep people coming in and interested in your business.
Well, it's a beautiful looking business here and one you're obviously very passionate about. Thanks a lot for sharing it with us.
Thank you.